Hey y'all, welcome back to Ready to Wire. Today we're going to be looking at the Turf Pick 3 for Thursday's card at Keeneland as part of our Keeneland card series. So let's take a look at the fields. First leg of the Turf Pick 3 is the fifth race at Keeneland, and it's an allowance N2X for 4-year-olds and up, run on the turf at 1.5 miles. And as we know, with the 1.5 mile configuration, there are 3 turns in this race, and it starts on the backstretch. Number 1 is Kitten Mischief. It's owned by Augustin Stables, nice outfit with Luis Saez aboard, and Jonathan Thomas training. Good trainer, but barn hasn't been doing terribly well this meet. This one has seemingly been getting better, been getting it. Period. The last race was a win at the N1X level. Logically, the graduation to N2X. Faced some decent company, including Verstappen two-back, who just won the Elkhorn at nice odds this weekend. And so this one's been in some decent company. The only concern, of course, is the layoff, and the buyers are a little light. This one looks to have some tactical speed, and I think that might be a good thing in this instance here. So Jonathan Thomas is pretty good with long layoffs, and more importantly, the tab looks good. So I think maybe we can think about this one at some value. Blanket of Roses just isn't good enough. Been running last brand for an $8,000 claimer on synthetic. Has a little bit of back class, but nothing to write home about. This is an easy toss. Cool Rags is trained by Eric Foster, and he's 0 for the meet so far. And this one, went 0 for last year and is 0 for 10 on turf. So a couple of things not working too well. The one thing you can say is this one has been running, whereas most of the others have been on a layoff. However, this would take, given the class of the field, this would take a pretty big effort for Cool Rags to factor in this race, and I really don't see it. The Great Wizard, number 4, is the short-priced favorite. Got Johnny V aboard, and Graham Motion has been having a nice meet. He's good with layoffs, so that's definitely something that works in this race. You can see it's had a pretty steady tab, so I think this one likely is ready to go. Only question I have is there isn't a lot of early foot with this one. Kind of comes from the clouds a little bit. So in these 1.5 mile races, a lot of times that's a disadvantage. But you can see this one's been running in stakes and is stakes placed, and is a deserving favorite, and I think you can certainly use. Wicked Fast I really like. I've liked this horse for a while, going back to the W.L. McKnight, where he got a third at 45 to 1, which we enjoyed very much. He's been doing really well. He's funny, like with many Mike Maker claims, this one has found his niche, running at long distances on turf. He's got Tyler Gaffalione aboard. Mike Maker hasn't been doing so great in this meet, but this is where he wants to. This is his wheelhouse, is the long turf races. So I don't see any reason why this one wouldn't be a contender here. The only thing you got to worry about is does come up from a little far back, and that's a bit of a concern. But I think this one is a logical choice and a logical win candidate. Got to use. 6 Minus is trained by Todd Pletcher and got a rod aboard, so that usually means some expectations here. Kind of weird horse for Todd Pletcher, even though he's owned by the Rapoli stable. This one had to drop to the 16,000 maiden level to get the diploma, and was running at the claiming level early last year, about this time last year. Since the switch to turf, things have looked up a little bit, and has run pretty well, including a victory at this distance at Gulfstream a couple months back. Coming off the layoff isn't an issue, I don't think. What really, I think class is really the issue more than anything else. It's hard for me to back this one given the prior efforts. So if you did use this one, I'd do it very advisedly, even with the good connections. English Conqueror is coming from Woodbine, and The last race in December wasn't bad. It was in a graded stakes and on synthetic at 1.5 miles and did pretty well. The thing is with this one, more than anything else, Woodbine, the competition isn't what it is at Keeneland, and this one has faced some decent company, I guess. But I think this would be a step up. And really the other thing that I don't like is that the tab has a couple of gaps in it. I don't know. I just this one is can kind of go either way with, and I would like to have a little more value than 10-1 if I was going to consider this one. Microphone is the one advantage this one has is that can run up early on the engine, and I think in a 1.5 mile race, as we know, that's a pretty good place to be. Mainly, the thing is that most of the better runners in the year come from behind, and a couple of them are coming off the bench, and they don't necessarily look ready. So this is one maybe you want to think about. You're getting 20-1. I think that's a pretty good price. And might be able to catch this field flat-footed. So this is one maybe to think about. Surf for sure, trained by Mark Cassidy, Joel Rosario aboard, and that's a good thing now. He's really rolling. He's found his confidence, and he's really been killing it at Keeneland as of late. This is another one coming from Canada. The last race in October would be very competitive here for sure, but it was in October. And that's a little bit of a concern, especially when you look and see the tab is kind of spotty for a horse who's been away this long. And that's something that you kind of got to worry about. It doesn't look like they even started training this one again until February. So there was a reason for that, I'm sure. I mean, 9-2 seems a little short, given that and given the back class. Isn't the greatest compared to some of the others, so I'd be very careful with this one. But he did win at 1.5 miles before, and you can't say that. But I'd just be a little careful, and I like others a little better. The second leg of the Turf Pick 3 is the 7th race at Keeneland, and it's an N1X allowance race for 3-year-old fillies on the turf. Number 1 is Boudica, or Boudica, however you pronounce it, trained by Josie Carroll. Good angle for her, second off the layoff. Got Joel Rosario aboard, which is a plus lately. This one didn't do too bad last time. Was kind of faltered a little bit late, but there isn't a lot of early foot here, so perhaps if this one gets a little nearer to the pace, like she did in her maiden score at Woodbine, then I think that might have some decent chances here. There are a lot of this isn't the greatest field, so this one, with another one under her belt, might be pretty good. Sweet Alyssa is trained by Neil Pesson, who's dead at this meet. It looks like all his best runners were at Fairgrounds, where he did very well. Juliana Peru's not faring too much better. This one will be going to turf for the first time, and Union Rags is not a very good first turf sire, and that coupled with the cold barn. I mean, she's faced some good company in Merlazza, who just won a stakes race in South Lawn, who's probably going to be one of the chalk and the Oaks. But she really hasn't been competitive against them. Perhaps this is a little bit of a class relief, but the change in surface doesn't look too promising, so I'll wait one to see how this one does. Venezia is logical. Chad Brown's been trying to get this one in during the meet. It's been an AE a couple times, I think. Irad Ortiz aboard. I mentioned it. Chad's been doing great at the Keeneland, but he and Irad together haven't been doing so great. I don't know what that is or why. Irad's having kind of a mediocre meet for him, but this one looks very logical, coming from France, first North American start. I don't think that's going to be a problem for Chad Brown. The tab looks solid. Very logical win candidate. Number 4 is Gromantine. Grand Motion's doing well this meet, and this one's second off the layoff, which isn't a bad angle for him. The last race this one ran in had a little bit of traffic in the stretch, but did get it going late. It just took a little while. It might have been just because it was the first start in the States, shaking the cobwebs off. I don't know. But this one looks to have some a pretty good turn of foot. Probably will be coming late, and I wouldn't put it wouldn't put it past her to win this. Madigan Stable's a good outfit, so this one you might want to think about. Be My Sunshine is trained by Sappy Joseph. We've got Tyler Gaffleone aboard, and look at the company this one's been keeping. The last race well into was just in a stakes race, and Erna's no slouch either. That's a really solid field for first time against winners, and she didn't do bad at all. She closed pretty well to get second, and being second off the layoff with Sappy, I fully expect a good effort out of this one, and I would consider this one a win candidate. Desert Tempest is trained by Brendan Walsh. She's pretty hot right now. His barn's really going well. This one has improved with every single start, and is getting back on the turf after racing off of it in the last one to get the maiden. It is the first time against winners, but this isn't the strongest field in the world. And just the fact that this one is showing slow, steady improvement makes me think that she would be a competitor here, and might be worth a look at 10-1. Tammy Tap Tap Tap, this is her first turf. She had some decent all-weather form, but that was around one turn. Phil Bauer doesn't have any stats for the first-time turf off a layoff. Katie rides an okay turf sire, and the dam isn't bad either, but I might want to wait one given. There are a couple more I like better, and I just don't see enough here to get really excited about. Miss Riddler is kind of interesting. Really could be any kind, coming off a layoff since July. She did break her maiden at first asking. You can definitely say that, and did it at a mile as a 2-year-old. So there's definitely some things to like here. Luis Saez is aboard, so I'm going to guess there's some expectations. It is a little strange that moving her to turf after she broke her maiden on dirt in pretty good fashion. Eddie Keneally's 0 for 3 with this spot, coming off a long layoff, first on turf at 3 years old. But he does have 2/3, so it's not improbable that this one could factor. It would have to be price dependent for me. For our pick 3 purposes, I think I probably want to wait one. Cloudy Bay is trained by Chris Davis, who's normally pretty good. Got Brian Hernandez Jr. aboard, who's doing really well at this meet. But this tab for this one, more than anything else, looks a little rushed. And this one is, was on the bench for a little while, and I don't know. I think they're still trying to run this one into shape. That's the look I get. You can see the last start was that same one with Be My Sunshine, and got a 4th. So there's a little bit of ability here. I just kind of get the feeling that they're running this one back into shape or something. I don't know, but it just looks a little strange to me to cram 3 works in like that after a start. So a little skittish about this one. At 20-1, maybe it's worth a look, but I think there's others that are better, especially for a barn that's cold in this meet. Miss Peabody took a few to break the maiden and did it on synthetic. The first couple turf efforts weren't bad. Obviously, she likes it. She finished 2nd and 3rd in her first 2 efforts. But this is another one. I really don't like this tab at all. She has a 3-month space between works, and yes, she had a couple of races in between, but she's only had 1 work since that Cincinnati Trophy Stakes effort, where she really didn't factor very much in it. Granted, she was running against Botanical, who likely will be the favorite in the Kentucky Oaks, but I don't know. I just this one I'm a little skittish about. You'd think if she was running in better form that they'd be having her training more regularly. Troy Newton's not very good with layoffs either. That may explain it, but I'm going to pass on this one. Puffin is going against winners for the first time. This one didn't do terribly well in synthetic, and I mean, she ran against Hoosier Philly in her first start, so she's had some decent company to run at, but she really hasn't done a whole lot. She did break her maiden around 2 turns, and Swiss Frank did come back to win. I believe it was on Saturday, so that wasn't a bad race. But this is her first effort around turf. Street Boss is okay with first turfers, and, you know, lemon drop given underneath. I'm sure grass isn't going to be an issue, but I like others a little better in this spot, and I'll pass. Moshiro runs for Wayne Catalano, who's been dead at this meet. He's 0 for it. But he might have a chance to break that here, because this one, Moshiro's had some really good company. If you look at her back class, Beautiful Navigator, just a broken maiden, the Owies Look, Towhead, Zagera, who ran in the British Cup Juvenile, as well as Raging Sea. I mean, she's run against some really top company. For the Phillies at 2, so that might explain why it took her a while to break her maiden. Did so on turf in her last start and wired the field. There isn't a lot of early pace in this race. Granted, she is parked on the outside in the 12 hole, but I could see if she can get to the lead, she might have a chance to steal it. I don't see any reason why you wouldn't think about this one maybe at 15-1 for a nice price. Silver Stripes is trained by Cherie DeVos. Has had a really nice meet. You got Joel Rosario aboard this one. I guess if she draws in, he'll be on one of them. This one looks the best of the also eligibles. Comes out of that well into Be My Sunshine race. Didn't do very well, but Cherie DeVos is a good trainer, and I'll expect a better effort. You might want to think about this one if she draws in, considering the fact she went to Fasig-Tipton in August for 800,000. There's obviously some expectations there, so you might want to think about this one. The others, Chica de Oro, Need Some Money, and Jenny Lind. Maybe Jenny Lind you think about a little bit, but this is Steve Asmussen, first time on turf. And she looks to be improving a little bit, but it's not really what he does. And he doesn't do well at Keeneland, so I'd probably pass on that one. Need Some Money really hasn't factored very well and is now switching to turf. That looks a little desperate to me. And Chica de Oro, I didn't got a made win the first time, but didn't do very well against winners the next. So I'll wait for her to round into shape, if ever. The third leg of the Keeneland Turf Pick 3 on Thursday is the 9th race, and it's a maiden special weight for 3-year-olds and up, and it's to be run on the turf, of course, at 1 mile and 3/16. So it starts with plenty of stretch to run to, so there shouldn't be any built-in impediments, and it's a long stretch as well. So plenty early, plenty late. Number 1 is Gettleman. Brendan Walsh is a really hot barn right now, and he's got a Rod Ortiz on him. This one had a pretty good effort to start his career, although it was off of the turf. Fairgrounds turf course wasn't anything to write home about anyway. So this is technically the first one on turf. He's by Hearts Fun, so that shouldn't be a problem at all. And like I said, the barn is moving well. This one has numbers to match up. And I think it's kind of a must-include given the success rate of the barn right now. Number 2 is King Curlin. He had a bit of a layoff. He pretty much missed his 3-year-old year, save for a couple of starts very late. He started on turf and didn't do too bad, but obviously there were some problems because his next 2 starts from his beginnings, British Futurity, he didn't factor too well, but then after the maiden, he didn't factor at all. So something went awry. Apparently they fixed it. He's come back. He hasn't done badly. It's a little concerning, though. You see the buyer decline over the last 3. This is back on turf and at a longer distance. Curlins can run all day, and especially when arches underneath. So the distance won't be a problem. But this barn hasn't been really firing that well, although it's a good spot for them, second off the layoff. It's just these connections seem a little cold right now, and I think we got better value elsewhere. Mongid is trained by Andrew McKeever. He's 0 for Keeneland. And he's not a bad trainer. He's just having a bad meet. And this one looks a little light on the buyer side. I think you'll probably see this one up near the lead early. It seems to that seems to be the way this one prefers to run. I don't think this one will be late. Will be hanging late. There's other early speed and pace presses in this one that I think will make things rather difficult. So I'm going to pass on this one too. Miracle on Ice is 0 for 10. That's all I need to know. I just can't back a horse who's had this many bites at the apple. It probably is a better thing to get back on turf. Form looks a little better there, but I don't see it. And there's others that he's run against and hasn't been able to beat, so I don't expect he's going to do it here. So Miracle on Ice, while being a great story for those of us who remember the '80 Olympic team, it's not good when it comes to horses in this race, so we'll pass. Son of Thunder I don't really know much about Caratoy, but I do know that Arnaud Delacour is a good trainer, and he looked like he had this one heading in the right direction prior to the long layoff. This is another one that missed his 4-year-old campaign completely. Prior to that, looked like it was heading in the right direction. The first effort on turf was very good. Since coming back with the new connections, he's been on synthetic and has been doing okay, but nothing to write home about. And again, there's others in here that this one wasn't able to beat, and I just don't see it here, so I'm going to let this one go. Dr. Kringle had a pretty good effort in his turf debut. He was way in the back, though. He was coming from the clouds, and so a little slow to get going, and that might be a problem at this distance. Ian Wilkes is doing really well at this meet, so it's you kind of want to upgrade in value a little bit. I just got a feeling, I don't know, I think there's others that appeal a little bit more, but if you're looking for a late runner with a barn that's going pretty well, you could probably do a lot worse. So this is one maybe to think about at 6-1. Kadir, whatever it is, trained by Elvis Trujillo, an old jockey I remember from way back down south, and he was a pretty darn good jockey. I guess he's a trainer now. This one has declining form. It's that simple. Since being on synthetic, really hasn't factored very well and seems to be regressing. Again, running against other horses that he wasn't able to beat before, and doesn't look like to be in terribly good form to handle this race. So I'm going to let this one go as well. Be Well had a pretty good race last time. I was up near the lead and was going against a pretty heavy favorite in Clever Thought, and of course Missionary was here today. Didn't do bad, rated pretty well. Flattened out a little bit in the stretch, and that might be expected, needing a race coming off a fairly decent layoff. So maybe we can give it a pass a little bit. I didn't think this one had bad form, rated pretty professionally. And being up near the lead is a pretty good place to be when the distances get longer, as we know. So I would definitely consider using this one at 10-1. I think it offers pretty good value. Karoom, again, Wayne Catalano and Jared Loveberry. Jay Love and Wayne are 0 for Keeneland. And they're really, they may have one in the earlier race I mentioned that might get them over the top. And this one's doing okay. But looks kind of plateauing, though. I don't really see that progression there. And got a second last time, so that's definitely something. And did it to Escapeologist, who's a pretty good horse, pretty good 3-year-old. So there's some things to like a little bit, but I just kind of think others have that more upside than this one does. So I'm given the cold barn, you just sort of have to downgrade a little bit. So I'm not going to use this one. Missionary was really logical. Christophe Clement's not doing too well at Keeneland either, but he's got the hottest jockey right now in Joao Rosario, who's really resurging. And now this one runs on the front end, I'm going to expect, as indicated by the last race, where gave the favorite all he could handle and ran a really nice race. Joao was on him then too, so he's familiar with the horse. I fully expect to move forward here. And I expect that this one is a definite win candidate, and I think you absolutely have to use. Roenick, don't really see too much here. Pretty light on the buyers. Jim Corrigan's good third off the layoff, but this one's in really deep water here, and I can't see any reason to back. So I'm going to fade number 11. Border War is trained by Shug McGahee, Joseph Allen, one of his oldest customers, and Tyler Gaffalione on the board. So you got great connections for this one. The last race was, boy, I never saw a horse so rank in my life. Head was all over the place in traffic on the backstretch. Settled down a little bit, and once he got free, it took a little bit to gather himself, but once he got going, he showed a pretty good turn of foot, and he was able to spurt up for place. So I think this one has some ability and appears to be moving in the right direction. I'm going to assume that with the layoff, Shug has worked on settling this one, and so maybe the freshening will help out a little bit. But I think this is a very logical use, and I like this one. We have also eligibles, as we always do at Keeneland, and Peak is trained by Rusty Arnold. Isn't very good with first time on turf. He's like 7%. James Graham's a great rider, but this one looks a little light buyer-wise, and I'm going to wait one, particularly since it's Rusty Arnold. And his barn is going well right now, but it's more the fact that this one's going to turf for the first time that turns me off a little bit. Boone's Path should be a pace presence if drawing in. Looks a little light buyer-wise, and I would expect only to be there early but not late. And if this one draws in, I wouldn't use. Hidden Path is logical Todd Pletcher horse. He hasn't been doing that great at Keeneland. He's at 14%, which is extremely low for him. This one is going to turf for the first time and shipping in, so those are two good positive angles. He's got Luis Saez aboard, who's a really good jockey, and you see he had him for the debut, so obviously there were some expectations. I would fully expect this one to be a win candidate if he draws in, so I would definitely think about using. Number 16, Self Rule, doesn't look like knows how to win yet. 0 for 9, and that's really all I need. Wasn't really doing terribly well on synthetic. Seemed to be a little bit better on turf, but not terribly much. And I wouldn't see this one factoring, no matter what surface it was. You see, this one's run against some other foes, and some of them aren't really factors here, so and couldn't beat them. So I think this one's a logical toss. So here's what our ticket looks like for the Turf Pick 3, and as I was reminded by one in our community, it's a $3 ticket. Thanks for reminding me. I'm so used to playing the 50-cent sequences, it escaped me on the last one. So anyway, here's our ticket. The 5th race, we're going to use 4, 5. In the 7th, we're going to use 3, 5, 6. And in the 9th, we're going to use 1, 8, 10, and 12. So that's 2 times 3 is 6 times 24 at a $3 bet. That's a $72 ticket. You can pare that down if you wish, but I think that last race is a little wide open and requires a little circling in order to make sure that we have a good stout ticket to try to give it a chance. They never give you any real easy ones with those Turf Pick 3s. That last maiden in particular was a pretty wide open affair. Hopefully we can garner some value from it to take down a pretty good ticket. We will have we will continue with the Keeneland card series until the meet concludes on Friday. And we have did a lot of work on the elements of handicapping, and that's pretty much done. I'm just waiting on some speed figures so we can finalize. But presentation's pretty much done, and I think you're going to get a lot out of it, particularly you newer people. There may be some things that you aren't aware of that you can use in your handicapping to make a good wager for the Derby. We will certainly continue to monitor the Run for the Roses. We just had the defection, Jason's Road coming back in. I wouldn't be surprised if we had a couple more. And I've been watching the Clocker reports. I know you guys have too. And it's been, heard some really nice developments, particularly about Disarm is doing pretty well. And Dermot Sotogake made his appearance and has been looking okay so far. So it's going to be an interesting Derby, I think, for sure. And we'll try to stay on top of that for you as much as we can. If you do like what you see here, of course, as always, please like and subscribe. And thanks so much for coming by. We do appreciate it. And I'll be talking to you later this week. And until then, be well.